Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live.
A sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me.
Welcome, everybody, Tackle Shop Live. Another great edition coming at you right now. And we got a full house coming in. And Andy Garrett's here, Johnny Kopp. What do you say, John Kopp? Galen Heathcote. Man, we got a wide range of people here. Jason Hawker, Gary Otto, Matthew Weimer. What's up, Matthew? Danny Pouse, Mike Hager, Tammy, how are you doing? Kaida Tammy's in the house. Man, we got a great show tonight. We are going to be talking some high dirty water techniques, fish in the mud. Man, how do you do that? Well, we got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about with that. No problem. Jeffrey Riddle's here. How you doing, buddy? Brandon Sandy, Scott Lockoff, of course. Scott Lockoff is here. Man, we got a great crew. Kevin Geezy, Sam and Sam. What do you say, guys? Let's go. You bet. Mark, how you doing? Jeff Santangelo. How you doing, Jeff? Man, oh, man. Scott Van Leer's here. Bob Austin. Andrew Winters. What's up, guys? Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Andrew. Well, we got a big show for you tonight. George is here walking around gathering up a few things. I'm here, Mike Acord, and of course, George Acord. And behind the camera, Nick Wink is back. Cameraman Nick is in the house.
How's it going, everybody?
What's happening, Nick? You were out fishing a tournament last time
the tournament didn't happen, but fishing did.
Yeah.
And fishing's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if people aren't fishing right now, they're missing out.
This is it. This is crunch time right now, man.
That's right.
This is when the big girls are coming up and playing, and there's a lot of PBs being caught right now. Let me tell you.
Now, Mike, would you say this is one of the best time of years to catch your biggest bag?
Yeah, I always said, for most of the guys, that pre-spawn, that early pre-spawn, when those big females or those first big females that come up are your biggest fish. This is when we're hearing in the shop here, personal bests, being caught, giant bags being caught, guys just going out there and slaying giants. So this is a very, very exciting time of the year. So it's my favorite time of the year. So we try to fish as much as possible. We had a big fish caught on the river, 6.5 pounder, I think, smallie on the river. I mean, that was a giant. So this is happening. This is happening right now. The big baits are working. The guys are throwing a lot of those glide baits, a lot of the swim baits. The Mega Bass mag draft is super hot right now. This is when you're going to do it. This is when you're going to do all the big fish, and you're going to catch all the big ones. So this is when we want to be out there as much as possible. So got a couple announcements. Number one, we're about a week away from the sign-in for the SummerSlam SFT SummerSlam tournament down on the Chesapeake Bay, going out of Anchor Marine. May the 21st is the date of the tournament. Now, our buy-in for I'll just talk to the people who really don't know. The SFT tournament, SummerSlam tournament is, I don't know, 15 years now. I think we've been doing it 16 years, something like that. And it's a really cool event. It's a buy-in event. In other words, we wanted to make something that everybody wins. Instead of just giving cash and losing the cash, we wanted you to get something for your money that you're paying in. So we teamed up with Shimano, and we came up with the SummerSlam tournament. Now, you can call it what you want. Sometimes it's in the spring, sometimes it's in the fall, but most of the time it's right near the summer. So we call it the SummerSlam tournament. And your buy-in is $250 per boat. That's a team of 2 in the boat fishing the tournament, like most tournaments are. And it's a $250 purchase of Shimano G Loomis, Jackal, and Power Pro. Yep, you buy any one of those items, mix it up, match it up, shirts, hats, rods, reels, line, lures from Jackal, whatever it is, you can mix and match, come up with 250 bucks, and that's your entry fee to get in the tournament. Now, our tournament, we pay out over $8,000 in cash and prizes, and it is a huge event, and it's become a event that is prestigious. If you win it or cash a check, it's a big deal, and it's a lot of fun. It's a tournament that if you don't fish tournaments, it's a tournament that you can fish and enjoy yourself and have a great time and learn about tournament fishing. And guess what? If you come to the scales and you just didn't have a great day and you didn't get a check, guess what you win? You win your $250 worth of tackle. It's all yours to keep. You know, that's the whole idea. Everybody's a winner at the SummerSlam tournament. It's something that we're really proud to put on here at Susquehanna Fish and Tackle. And George and I, and with the help of Patrick Latham, who's our Shimano rep, we do this every year, and it's a really big gig. We have some cool things. We do a tackle toss after the tournament's over, throw a bunch of tackle in the air. Everybody grabs tackle as much as they can. It's a lot of fun. You know, we give away a lunker prize. We have, you know, we pay 1 in 5 spots. So if you get, you know, 100 boats, that's 1 in 5. So, you know, we pay a lot of times we're paying down to 20th place, 25th place, something like that. And so it's, you know, a lot of people can get a check.
Hey, Mike, didn't you guys pay for the smallest 5.2?
Yeah, we, you know, with one of our sponsors that helps us out. And I don't know if they will this year, but anyway, last year, Rhino Linings of Delaware, they always give a $500 gift card for the smallest bag of fish. So you come in with your real small bag, you win that prize. So it's a pretty cool little deal. You know, it's something different, something fun, something that you don't have to feel like you're going down and donating, and it'll get you into tournament fishing. That's something that you've probably been thinking about doing. We walk you through it. We answer all your questions. There's no pressure. It's just a fun time. If you have questions, you ask one of our guys. We dial you right in, get you right up to the weigh in. We show you how to do it, show you talk to you about blast off, talk to you about weighing in and what that's all about, keeping your fish alive. You know, we give a little sheet out on tips to keep your fish alive and taking care of your fish while you're fishing. So it's just a whole thing about getting new people into the sport of tournament fishing, which we love. So that's coming up. Your buy-in's going to start April 21st. So it's a 30-day buy-in, April 21st to May 21st. You get to buy in your tackle and get entered into the tournament. You can do it online and send your application into us, or you can come into the store here and sign up with us here to shop. All the rules, all the regulations will be on our website. You can read about how to do it exactly. And it's simple. It's a simple little deal. Just get your $250 worth of stuff purchased, and you are entered into a great tournament. So we'll remind you again next week, right before the buy-in starts, and give you another heads up on that so you guys can all get involved. I know a lot of people who never fish tournaments got in our tournament and cashed checks. So it's pretty cool thing. All right. So another thing we have to talk about is cameraman Nick, a few months back got sponsored by St. Croix Rods, which was a big deal. He got a sponsorship deal with them and is fishing their rods, and to kind of get that whole thing kicked off, he decided that he wanted to give away a fishing rod, which I have right here, and a guided fishing trip to some place. I don't know where. Nick's going to pick the spot once he figure out who wins it. And we drew it several weeks ago and tried to contact the person who won, and they did not respond in a we think a fair amount of time with trying to get them a couple different times. So Nick said, we're redrawing. So tonight we're going to redraw this. So all you guys who were in the drawing, guess what? Here's your names right here. We have you covered from 1 through 91. Everybody who bought a St. Croix rod during the giveaway entry time, right here you are. And we're going to draw some numbers, aren't we, Nick?
Yep. You ready?
All right. So Nick's going to do a drawing, an automatic drawing with a number deal that he found on the internet.
A number deal?
Some kind of, what is that thing?
It's like a number app where you put it on there.
Yeah, and it's random.
So when I push the button,
I see people using that stuff on the slot machines. I thought they were just trying to. It's called a randomizer. A randomizer.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so
a random,
you know,
a randomizer.
This is a second. This is a second chance for you guys who thought you lost.
Right.
The fellow who won just didn't get back with us, so we're drawing again.
So he lost.
He lost.
He lost out.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Here we go. Are you ready, Nick? Push the button, baby.
That looks like BetMGM.
2, 1, and you get a number?
Number 9.
Number 9. Number 9. All right, here you go. Number 9 is George Miller. George Miller. I don't know if you're on here, George.
Congratulations, George.
But you won it. We got your phone number. We're going to call you and try to get a hold of you and leave some messages. And we're going to give you a fair amount of time to get back with us.
And the precedent's been set.
And if it doesn't work,
sometime between now and next year's Cabin Fever sale, we're going to give away this.
Actually,
rod.
It was only a couple of weeks. I mean, really.
Yeah, it was 3 weeks or whatever, but it's time. So, George, let's go fishing.
George Miller is the winner. He gets a trip with Nick.
And the crowd goes wild, Mike?
And the crowd goes wild. Uh-oh. And the crowd goes wild. And you win the 7'1" medium heavy victory. Casting rod and a trip with Nick. Cameraman Nick on a body of water somewhere. We will definitely
by the way,
get in touch with you.
That rod is pretty awesome. That is a Swiss Army knife of a fishing rod right there.
That's a fantastic rod. That does it all.
That thing is a true Swiss Army knife.
That does it all. Man, we got iRod in the house. We got Amy Lynn Brown. How are you doing? We've got JP Harrell here stopping in. How's everybody doing? James Hook is here. Robert Bretz is in the house. Tom Fogarty. How are you doing, Tom? Good to see you, buddy. All right. So here we go. Let's get this show rolling here. And right now we're going to do a little, what we like to call tackle talk. Yeah. Tackle talk is in session right now. We are Susquehanna Fishing Tackle, which is a huge tackle shop. So, of course, we're going to talk some tackle and some hot products and stuff that's working right now and some cool ways to fish them and rig them. What do you got first, George, for us on the list, bro?
I'm going old school.
We're going old school. We love to go old school around here.
I'm going with one of the OG boot foot swim baits, and it's from Reaction Innovations. We have the Little Dipper, and we have the Skinny Dipper.
That's horrible. There you go.
What's horrible?
Can't really see it right.
Well, that's kind of the cameraman's job.
Yeah, like this, maybe.
Not for nothing.
You can see them there. That's the length of them right there. A little bit of difference.
So these are some of the very first, like, what I would call advanced boot foot swim baits that really help to get that whole style of fishing going, or re-energize it, or actually take it to new places. And the Skinny Dipper is the one that has kind of done that, and it's probably your most useful size. I mean, you can fish all species of bass in all conditions with a Skinny Dipper.
It's a very unique. It's like George said. It's a very unique swim bait, and the design of it isn't just haphazard. It kind of has a lot of um, um, attributes to it that give it a wobble and a thump like you don't really see in these type of boot foots. I mean, this thing really rolls super nice, and it's something that I talk about all the time, and why I think it's so great is the design allows the water to really roll that bait, and you get that side to side movement, which is really what these baits are all about. This that thumping, that action, that movement in that bait. And you can, the ways of rigging it and all the different variables that you can rig this bait makes it super special. And for a lot of our smallmouth fishing, we fish the smaller version, the Little Dipper. Around here, it's super famous. And on our rivers and stuff, we just throw a jig head in it and fish it on a jig head. And I'm telling you, man, this thing flashes side to side. I mean, it does almost 90 degrees back and forth like this, and flashes that belly really nice. But it's the design of the bait. It's cut out in certain spots. It has cutouts that allow that water to really roll that body.
Yeah, well, what the main reason I wanted to bring it up again is, Reaction is big time responsible for like the advanced colors that we have to fish with. They way back when the Sweet Beaver was first making its way, the green pumpkin, blue swirl, which they named Magic Crawl Swirl.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Famous color.
nobody else did that.
Bullfrog.
Nobody else did that, but now they're still pushing, the color design. And what kind of got me fired up on talking about them again is a new color that they have that's called Lab Rat. And it's it's a two-tone shad color.
A little pink hue to it.
Just an awesome.
Can't really see it on the video, but
bait fish color. Yeah. I mean, and the thing you got to understand about this bait, you got a fantastic chatterbait trailer / swim jig trailer. You got two sizes that allows you to dial that in. I like probably the Little Dipper more than any of them for chatterbait and swim jig. But when I get around some big pre-spawn largemouth that are eating like perch, I go to the Skinny Dipper for my trailer because I like that bulk. You're rigging it numerous ways. Down in Florida, they swim it over top of the grass with a very lightweight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like prior to the belly weighted swim bait hook, the screw in bullet weight, just an old school screw in bullet weight on a wide gap hook. Now, obviously, when you're fishing in Florida, you're going to go, around over that grass, you're going to go to a super line hook, if you're fishing for bigger fish. But that technique is still primo, and you can dial in the weight, the hook. Obviously, the belly weight is a tremendous way to rig it, with or without a blade. It just goes on and on and on what you can do with this thing.
Alabama rig. A lot of guys fish them on an Alabama rig.
Yeah, it's an interesting plastic because it's when you feel it, it's a soft plastic, but it's a tougher plastic.
It's very durable.
So, it's awesome on an A rig. I generally use the Little Dipper on the A rig, but you certainly could use the
Simon
Skinny Dipper.
Yeah, Simon's asking if he can rig it as a line through. I'm sure you can. It's a solid body bait, so you can run a rivet through it and thread your line through and rig it as a line through with a treble hook, no problem.
Not my cup of tea, Simon.
Yeah,
but you can do that.
we fish ours, on different swim bait heads. We fish them on ball heads for the smaller ones for some smallmouth action. We really like the screw in, that's a bullet weight screw in weight on the head, with a 3.0, either a heavy duty hook or a fine wire hook, depending on where you're fishing. If we're fishing in the grass, man, that screw in weight's so nice, it doesn't hang in any grass. It still gives you that really good pulse on that bait. And that's the thing about this thing that you really got to understand. And I'm going to say it again, is the thump you get out of it. It's amazing when you're reeling it through the water and your rod tip is just thumping along like that. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, on the skinny dipper, when you're doing that, go to a 4.0 hook. It really fits it well, especially if you're around some bigger fish. But yeah, these things are bad to the bone. We dug up an oldie, but a goodie. There's a lot of new colors. You can check them out. Yeah, I didn't think they could invent any more colors.
Yeah,
somehow
it seems like every so often they come out with a really cool color, and they I'm telling you, they have a bunch of colors that are
what I like
really
about
awesome.
those guys is they all fish.
Yeah,
that whole, the guy that owns the company, the Sweet Beaver was named after he won an FLW tour event on Beaver Lake, and the Smalley Beaver was named the next year after he won another FLW tour event on Beaver Lake. So
yeah,
it's not like they got to prove anything to anybody.
No.
Josh Heron, who is Matt Heron's son, is
there's your son, Gil,
manager there, and the rest of the staff down there is hardcore fishermen. So you've got the who's who behind the scenes guys designing these baits, and more importantly, the colors.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out some Lab Rat, check out some Frozen.
Of course, the sun, Gil.
If somebody's
Famous
listening
color.
to the phone conversation, the wrong person, you could he's talking about Reaction Innovations colors, man. It can sound like you're talking about something else.
I see they renamed a couple of them because they were just too far out there.
Yeah.
They had a color they called statutory grape.
Yeah.
And it's not called that anymore.
It's called smoke purple.
It's called smoke grape now. So they come up with some pretty good stuff, but the whole product line is really fantastic. And it's like George says, it's oldie but goodie. And it was something we wanted to talk about because of some of the new colors, but also the importance of it for guys that don't know about it. It really is a sleeper. There's a lot of guys throwing it that don't talk about it. And it's something that you guys can jump on there and try them out and see what you think for your boat.
Check out the new colors. Check out Lab Rat. Some of the newer colors. Check out Frozen. Check out Gunnersville Shed. Not necessarily new this year, but newer to the line. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Sexy shad, chartreuse sexy shad, bad sexy. Try them as a chatterbait trailer. Try them as a swim jig trailer. You will not be disappointed.
Absolutely.
You will not be disappointed. So anyways, that's first on the hit list.
Edward, how you doing? Bob Austin, tidal herring in our mind. What color would you say resembles tidal herring the best?
Dark back, light belly. I would say you would want to go with.
That's my personal favorite, dark back, white belly.
Yeah, Shiner's good.
This is called Shiner.
Shiner's good.
This has a real nice flash to it in the water.
That would be a good in clear water. That would be a good color.
Yeah, I do good with that.
I don't know. I can't think of all the color names.
Bluegill. Bluegill is a good color.
Impact gill.
Yeah.
Impact gill would be a really good shad color.
Yeah, that's a nice. Has some nice metal flake in it.
Dark back, light belly, some flash.
Yeah. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of colors. They have a great pearl white. They got a great pearl white.
It's called white trash.
Yeah, white trash. It's a great color. and what's cool about it is they have a green pumpkin with a chartreuse belly, and they have a black with a blue belly.
Dirty Sanchez.
Dirty Sanchez is the green pumpkin chartreuse, and black blue bruiser, right? Penetration is the black blue with some flake in it, and they're excellent for on the back of a chatterbait or a swim jig. If you're doing green pumpkin or you're doing a black and blue jig, it's a fantastic color for on the back of those things. So we fish a lot of those colors, and straight green pumpkin. Dip the tail in some chartreuse and have at it. So
green pumpkin watermelon laminate.
Charles Daltrey they make those after George. Yeah, Charles Daltrey wants to know all the color names. Well, I'm telling you, you'd probably be thrown in jail if you went if you went down the list. But we used to have a guy that worked for us, and a dear friend that moved away. He's living down in North Carolina right now. But he was an older fella, and when we got this stuff in,
he still is an older fella.
Yeah. When we got this stuff in, we debuted it at a tackle show, and he's looking at this thing, and he's standing over there, and he's like, what the heck is this stuff? He says, look at this. I can make up a nice rhyme. And he went through this whole thing with Dirty Sanchez and
white trash
and all this stuff all the way through penetration and all the way out the other side. And he was telling a story on that. He had the whole place freaking rolling. And back in the day, the colors or the packaging had pretty risque packaging, very risque packaging on there. So it was.
You mean the silhouettes of the naked ladies?
Yeah, silhouettes of the naked ladies on the packaging.
There's still a few old school packs that they're shipping out. They must have like one bag, one big container of bags left, because a couple old school colors they'll still pack in those old packs.
Yeah. So they are cleaning their act up a little bit for whatever reason, but it's just fun messing around with that stuff. But
for me, I don't put the boat in the water unless the Reaction Innovation Little Dipper, Skinny Dipper box is on board.
Yeah.
And I got to have a lot this time of year. I got to have a lot of sungill.
Yeah.
I got to have a lot of white trash. I have to have the penetration color.
Yeah.
The green pumpkin watermelon laminate.
Yeah.
And the sexy shad. Or I guess it's called chartreuse sexy shad.
Yeah.
I got to have those colors on board. They match up with all my jigs, all my chatterbaits.
Yeah.
Some of my spinner baits I like to run the Little Dipper on. And I like to swim them, like if those perch are around, I'm taking that Skinny Dipper and sungill, and I'm Texas rigging it with my little screw-in bullet weight, and I'm swimming it. It's just that's big stuff.
It's an awesome bait.
That's big stuff.
Check it out online, sfttackle.com. Just go to Reaction Innovations, click on Skinny Dipper, and you can check them out there, and then also go back and look at the Little Dippers, and you can see all the colors. And
Lab Rat is just cool, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't thrown it yet, but I'm gonna have to because it just looks like a fish. Looks great. Anyways, that color is what prompted this big dialogue here. So
yeah. What else you got, George?
I got another one that we did already, but we've been selling a lot of these rods, and I've been getting a ton of questions about the blank. It's the new version of the Tatula Elite rods.
Yep.
The signature rods that the pros designed. They go from, a jerkbait rod to an 8-foot 10XD / 5-ounce swim bait rod. They added in 3 or 4 new pros. I know Patrick Walters joined the team. They designed about 5 new rods. I think there's 26 models now. It's either 21 or 26 models. The blank has changed slightly. Now for the guys that one of the questions is, did the blank change? Yes, the blank did change. But from what I can understand, it's more the resin that's being used than it's not the carbon. It's not the graphite that's being used. So that, your feel is going to be, I don't think you're going to be upset. They've added cork handles in depending on the pro who wanted whatever handle they wanted. And they did not change the price. They did change the reel seat. So, the new reel seat is the carbon air reel seat. It's the exact same reel seat they use on the Steez series of rods. So I had some questions. I made some notes. I told people I would address it on the show. Just a couple little tweaks. To me, the rods feel the same. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. They look a lot cooler. It's more of a darker gunmetal color.
Yeah, they do look a little better.
Yeah.
And the cosmetics, the logoing is pretty cool. It's kind of etched into the blank. It's not applied to the blank. The reel seat, I really like. I really like the reel seat.
They did.
I don't fish a lot of those. Mike and I fish the 8-foot heavy swim bait rod.
Mm-hmm. Plus they come in some
a couple of the other models.
Yeah, there's a few cork models too.
Yeah,
George.
we discussed the cork.
Yeah.
So Tatula Elite rods, they are, you check them out. There's 26 models. Every one but one is in stock. So
yeah,
for those of you asking about Tatula Elite rod questions, hopefully, the big thing is basically the resin that is being used on the blank. They're calling it a nano plus resin. So I guess it's a strength thing. I don't know.
Hey guys, question. What do you guys prefer, cork or doesn't really matter?
I'm flipped coin for me, man. I have, I love cork handles, but I do not dislike the high density handles. Don't dislike them at all. Yeah. I've fallen in love with those monocoque handles on the Shimano rods, the carbon monocoque handles. I'm liking that. But no, I don't have a preference.
What's up there, Mr. Esterly? Glad to see you stopping in. iRod's in the house, and the smallmouth are starting to spawn here on the Susquehanna iRod. What else
Nick,
you have there, George?
You know what this is, Nick? You know what time of the year it is? What are we doing this time of the year? We starting to throw some topwater?
Yeah, we are.
Look at that bad boy. Rico. This is the Rico. Not new. If you're picking up what I'm putting down here, this is kind of like a retro tackle talk segment. So what caused me to think of this was I just got a big shipment of Ricos in today, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to talk about the Rico. So we're dealing with Gamakatsu hooks. We're dealing with feather hand-tied with a little mylar. And all their bodies have a foil. So kind of like they do on a lot of like balsa crankbaits where they'll put a foil down, a real thin foil, and then paint over top of it. Gives it that depth. They walk the dog.
Great.
They're a great popper. $21.99 price point.
Perfect right out of the box. Right out of the box. You just take it right out of the box and start fishing. It's perfect out of there. It walks really nice. But it's a really good spawn and pre-spawn and post-spawn bait. So that whole mixture of stuff going on for the spawn, you might want to fish a little bit slower, kind of let it sit a little bit longer for the spawning fish. And
that color's Cisco.
Yeah, Cisco. I got the two hot ones, Cisco and Absolute.
That color's Absolute.
That thing's bad.
Well, and another one that's really hot is Bone. They have a nice bone. You know how River to Sea has that yellow bone?
Yeah.
That everybody loves.
Yeah.
There's a little whiter, but it's kind of towards that vein.
Yeah.
You can go to sfttackle.com. You can check them out. There's a whole bunch of colors of Rico.
Yep.
It's time to get your little topwater box dialed in because
I'm telling you,
it's here.
It is. That water hits them 60s.
It's here.
Look out.
It's on.
It's game on.
Game on.
Hey, I know you guys love throwing that bait. What is your favorite retrieve and setup?
Well, like I said, you almost got to fish it a couple different ways. Just to walk the dog retrieve is really good, where you just get the popper to really just walk itself in and do a steady retrieve. But, during the spawn, I like to throw it in where I would think a pocket is in the grass, or a little place, an area where I might think there's a fish getting ready to bed up, or maybe there's some cruising fish that are cruising around, and they're being a little bit more territorial. And when you're dealing with territorial fish, I like to let it set there a little longer. And the beauty of these baits is the feather on the tail, with the movement of maybe some wind current or a little bit of wave action or whatever, you get that little bit of action that just kind of tantalizes them enough that they can't stand it being in their zone, and especially those territorial fish. So a lot of times just real small twitches, let it set for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. And you have to mess around with the time of it setting. But I've caught some monster largemouth, just doing that, flicking it into little pockets in the grass where, you think maybe a fish is kind of getting ready to set something up, or like I say, is setting up their zone of territorial. And I'm telling you, and then, pre-spawn fish, that walking the dog, you can mess with the speed on that, but, walking the dog is real important. And then in the summertime, you can work it pretty fast. Later pre or post spawners, when they're chasing and going crazy, you can work a little bit faster and get it skipping and jumping, and works real well for that too. So that's the 3 retrieves I think that are the best.
My big guidelines that I go by, Nick, are if I'm smallmouth fishing, I work it faster. And if I'm largemouth fishing, I work it slower. And it's probably about, largemouth is probably about like, pop, pop, pop. Smallmouth is double that. Pop, 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 pop. And what I like about the Rico is, it gives you that more of that. It doesn't really pop. It doesn't gurgle. I don't really like a gurgling, like blooping type sound on a popper. I like a
spit.
Yeah, more of a shad flicking on the surface sound.
They were the designers of the spitting technique.
I fish mine on a 7-foot medium fast St. Croix Legend Elite. I have a couple of them that are strictly, well, I shouldn't say that. They're primarily topwater rods this time of the year. I either have them spooled up with 14 mono or a fairly heavy braid. And I've actually fished them because I didn't have anything else with me. I actually fished them with 50 braid once. That was well used, so it was pretty limber. But I'll tell you, the thicker braid really made them walk nice. So I kind of did that for the rest of the year because it was tied up and it worked well. But 14 mono works really well. And that setup really works well for me. I like a fast reel on that too, because you're always, after your hook set, you're always trying to pick up that slack. So that's what I do, Nick.
The price, you can say what you want about the price of the bait. And you can, but I'm telling you, out of the box, and this popper sits differently in the water. Not only, and that's why I like it for dead sticking, a little bit, because it doesn't tail down in the water and give you like a zero profile look. It lays real flat in the water and it gives you more profile. So when those fish look up, they're seeing more of a bait fish profile. They're seeing more profile. And I'm telling you, this spawning, sit still technique with this thing is off the charts. I'm telling you, I've caught giant smallmouth doing it. I've caught giant largemouth doing it. And where a popar or some of those other ones sit more straight up and down like this in the water, these set with a nice profile to them, and they're balanced differently, and they do something different. So yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more for them, but it's a different type of popper. It's perfect right out of the box. You don't have to change the hooks. You don't have to do anything to it. It's ready to roll right out of the box.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff, So, I find myself fishing the stuff when I'm largemouth fishing. I'll find myself fishing it on the line like George does. but I'm not afraid to put it on a spinning rod either if I really get into clear water situations, and I have to cast it far, or if it's really pressured water and I'm not fishing heavy cover. I like it on a spinning rod too. You can definitely fish that on a spinning rod.
So now I'm showing you something else that we already talked about, but it's hot in the shop right now. And it's the Rapala Roco, which is a balsa circuit board lip square bill. And this bad boy is become a hot item here in the last week or so. Dives 5 foot, weighs 3/8 of an ounce. You can cast it really well. Right out of the box, quality VMC hybrid trebles, $9.99 price point. And this is a 4-wheel drive truck right here. I mean, this bad boy will come through some gnarly stuff. Wanted to point out the Roco because it's hot, as in what's hot and what's not.
Good stuff.
Charles, if you're still watching, that is some special effects, son.
David Schottlemeyer, how about the Don Iovino? Well, if you listen to this show at all, you know we're fully loving that.
We have documented over 300 hours of nonstop talk and praise about the Don Iovino. You can review any show we've ever done, and you'll get Don Iovino Splash It tips.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We fish them both because what's cool about Ricos is they have some really unique colors, and they're different than the Don Iovino's. But the Don Iovino is one of the greats. Absolutely.
If you take a Don Iovino Splash It and extremely carefully, like, sand and polish and buff and caress the back of it and just slightly remove the finish, it says Rico underneath it.
It probably does.
Well, Terry Baxay told me that.
Yeah. Well, he would know.
He was laughing. He is a tackle junkie of the highest magnitude.
He is.
And I believe him.
There's another tip there that Jesse McNutt is bringing up about fishing a topwater with braid, and it's using a small, heavy monofilament leader between the braid and the popper, so that the hooks don't tangle up in the braid, which that does happen.
That's a good point when you're using lighter braid like 30.
Yeah,
but that ain't going to happen on 50. 50's thick. It's got some resistance in the water, and believe me, it works well.
Yeah,
it works real well.
It's a nice tip, though. It's something that we've talked about before with different topwaters.
Well, yeah, and if you're having that problem,
yeah,
don't keep thinking it's going to go away. Just sit down and tie the leader up.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Barr, what about the closed face reels? Absolutely, Mike Barr. You can do whatever you want to do with the closed face reels, because I know you're a lover of the closed face spin cast reel, and I will never take that away from you, ever. You catch some giants on it too. You can throw your splatchets on there. You can throw your skinny dippers on there. All the stuff we're talking about. Absolutely, especially the gold cast. You don't like my silver cast that I sell here, but you like the gold cast. I know how that is. All right. You got anything else when it comes to tackle, George?
Too much to mention.
Too much to mention.
I think for tonight, we're going to let it go with that.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea to talk about, get into some other stuff to talk about, but pay attention to some of this old school stuff. We like to bring it out of the archives and just kind of freshen everybody up on what's working, what's hot, what's happening, what's new. We try to throw a little bit of new and a little bit of old at you at all times. And that's kind of what our tackle section's all about. We are getting stuff in here all the time here at Susquehanna Fish and Tackle. Every day is like Christmas in here. We get new tackle. We get restock. Our shop is loaded to the gill, and we are ready to serve all you guys with all your needs. While you're on here, if you could just like and share and comment on your YouTube and in your Facebook, apps there and share this show with us. That would help us out a lot, and we would appreciate it. Appreciate all the love from you guys over this past couple years of Tackle Shop Live, and I know you love it, and we love it too. And we meet a lot of really great guys doing this, people from all over. But we got a really great core of original OGs on here that have been with us since the beginning. We appreciate you guys also.
I got a little more pimping to do.
Got some pimping?
Yeah. Big pimping.
What are you pimping?
Well, for those of you who don't know, we're on the Susquehanna River.
Ooh.
Is where our shop is located. And the Susquehanna River is an outstanding smallmouth fishery. And right now, it is red hot.
Dynamite.
Red hot.
It's happening.
If you can't catch fish now, fishing is not your game.
Take up golf.
Change your channel and go do something else.
Maybe tennis. What's that new tennis game called?
But
Nick?
what I want to let you know is we have a guide
Paddleball.
service here. Most of you probably don't know that because we don't advertise it. We've been doing it for 30 years. And we have 3 outstanding guides that work for us. Tony Cicero, Anthony Cicero, and Corbin Gottwalt. And we're pimping the guide service because
fishing's so good.
Mostly because we keep forgetting to do it on the other shows. But
plus the fishing is so good. The fishing is so good right now.
We get chopping it up and we forget about the guide service, and then the guides call up and yell that we're not pimping the guide service because they got mouths to feed. They want to fish.
The thing about the Susquehanna River is it's a mile wide and a foot deep, and it's very intimidating, and it's almost impossible for a lot of people to fish because it's so low and so shallow and so treacherous. But that's what makes it a world-class smallmouth fishery. I mean, and I don't care what anybody says, it's a world-class smallmouth fishery, and it's in a category all of its own. It's very unique fishery, very scenic, very exciting when you're running in a jet boat over 8, 10 inches, 12 inches of water with
12 inches of water.
I
run my freaking Skeeter in 12 inches of water.
It's very exhilarating.
How about 3 inches of water?
It's fun. Yeah, it's really fun. It's something very unique.
The guides are running custom boats, which it's very impressive. Fun boat ride.
Yeah.
They're fishing, real high-end tackle, so you're going to fish good quality tackle. But anyways, I don't want to get all bogged down on this with a 10-minute freaking dialogue on our guide service, but we have a kick-ass guide service. We got 3 awesome guides with a lifetime of experience, and the fishing's good. So if you're interested in dipping a toe in the Susquehanna, give us a call here at the shop, and we'll book you a trip and get you out there. Strike while the iron's hot. There you go, Mike. Your friendly service announcement on the SFT guide service.
Well, it's awesome. That's all I got to say. I think I might call him up and book a trip because that's about the only way I get out anymore. Telling you, man, got to book a trip with him. It's unbelievable. Jason Basta, what's up? What's going on with you, big boy? Yeah, we got pickleball. Yeah, iRod pickleball. See, pickleball. That's the other thing. If you can't catch smallmouth on the Susquehanna River right now, then you should take up pickleball. Although pickleball seems like pretty fun. Have you checked that out, Nick?
I haven't, but maybe are you going to take that up or
I don't know. It looks pretty fun. It's like ping pong with giant like these big paddles and a bigger ball.
I mean, I see a competition here. I see, George versus Mike out on the water. Loser has to take up pickleball.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind taking a pickleball.
Let me see. Would I rather go fishing or would I rather play pickleball? I think I'll stick with the fishing.
Pickleball looks like a lot of fun. I mean,
I think I'll stick with the
they
fishing.
got pickleball tournaments now. Like these people are sponsored and they're like, it's like crazy. It's cool stuff. Bart Elliott fish with Corbin. He's great to fish with. Sure, he's fantastic. He's a treat to go fishing with. Absolutely, only the best here at Susquehanna Fish and Tackle. Okay, so let's get this show rolling, and we're going to get into some of what we call. What are we going to do, George? What's next?
We're going to talk about fishing muddy water.
Oh, fish in the mud. Yeah, fish in the mud. George and I were talking about this all week long, and I thought maybe the statement that I would make first before we get into techniques and stuff like what we're going to talk about and all the stuff that we like to do is the mental side of it. How dirty water affects you mentally when you get to the boat ramp first thing in the morning. It just is a downer. It's a bummer. It right away, you just get this negativity to you. And it's probably the worst thing that you could do is get that negative vibe.
I would say most people do. The nice thing about the muddy water, if you're a tournament fisherman and that mud rolls in, over half your competition is spun out before they even make a cast.
That's what I'm trying to get at here, is the fact that, if you start looking at it from the positive side of things, when you get to the body of water and you see what's going on, then right away, it's knocking half the field out of there. They're just like their mental status is already shot. So what we're going to talk to you about tonight is how can you not get in, come to the water and get that negative feeling, and see it as an opportunity instead of a negative, and look for the opportunities that are out there and how the fish will maybe even get more aggressive and maybe even bunch up a little bit better if you know what to look for. And that's kind of what we're going to get into right here tonight. And so what do you got here, George? Let's talk some mud.
I mean, opportunity, not a curse.
Yeah.
I mean, fish, the only really negative thing about mud is new mud. Like, if you had good, clean water and a big giant storm comes in and it blows it out, that's a problem. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. So you got to address muddy water in two ways. You got the new mud and you've got like the stable mud water. So on the new mud water, you have options.
A lot of options.
So, when that storm comes in and those creeks and rivers that feed your body of water get blown out, and just mudded up, they're not muddying everything up at the same level at the same time everywhere. So
exactly,
on new mud, you have to do a little looking around.
Exactly.
So you have to get away from that mud and find where it's what I would like to call blended. And a couple of the little sneaky things to do there is to look for grass and look at grass, because grass,
natural filter,
it has a tendency to filter that water. And if you're on that blend kind of transition area and that grass is giving you that filter, it's kind of like you got a different shade there. And there's a couple things that happen there. It really bunches the fish up because they're kind of evacuating the premises when it's brand new, hardcore. A lot of fish just kind of move ahead of it, and they move rather quickly.
They don't mess around.
The other thing that I've always found to be really, really interesting with incoming mud water. Okay, so we're strictly talking about new mud.
Yep.
One of the things that I've really found interesting, and I'm not sure how many scientists are on here, or meteorologist, or proctologist, or whatever kind of ologist you are.
Proctologist.
One thing that I've always found interesting is like that incoming muddy water does not really necessarily mix with the existing water. They kind of blend a little bit, but they, as that water rises and that mud comes in, it pushes that clean water. So it's kind of more of a replacing the water that was there. And obviously it's blending. I mean, there's not like a sheet of plexiglass there, but it's there's a phenomenon where it pushes that water out. So, look at the creeks that are bringing that water in and then get out ahead of that. And I'm talking about like the rain event occurred the day before or the night before, and get out in front of that and just take a look with your eyeballs, pull into the mouth of the creek. If it's a big creek, especially if it has grass, get a high vantage point in your boat. Okay. Cause you're looking out across an expanse of water. Get a high vantage point in your boat and just look. And if you can see like a less muddy area, particularly if there's grass involved, or even if there's not, there's a very, very good possibility that those fish that were stacked up in that creek that you were all hungry for have relocated. That's on a new mud event.
Absolutely. So,
and that's true, Mike.
A couple of other things with new mud is, your tributaries that are pumping this stuff in are all different sizes, and they have different volumes of water that they push out into those areas. Some of the tributaries are big and some that take a lot longer to clean off, but some of the tributaries are smaller and they can clean off within a few hours and start pumping in some cleaner water. So it's really, this is where map work and knowing your body of water really comes into play, is knowing where the big tributaries are and the little tributaries are and the little creeks are that may be pushing in some cleaner water and changing that area out very quickly. 8 hours of fishing is a long time. So when you show up at the boat ramp and you're like, oh my God, it rained all night long, this place is blowed out, come 12 o'clock, there's some green water coming in somewhere. There's some cleaner water coming in and filtering out some of that mud and not making it so muddy that it's just new mud, terrible fishing. But you can get in there and you can fish a different level of mud and dirt that the fish will eat in. Right, Nick?
Right.
And so it's really important to know your bodies of water, your tributaries, which ones clean off quicker. And you can, I'm telling you, man, you can crack them, especially when it rained hard and all that fresh stuff gets pushed in and the fish are, they're kind of shut down for a little bit. And then all of a sudden that cleaner water starts rolling in. They will absolutely gravitate to that and they will feed like crazy in that situation. And you can have a banner day. So that's one of the, what'd you call those? Somebody said it here. It's a opportunity. It's not a problem. It's an opportunity.
Well, one of the things that I've done in that situation on a foreign body of water or an area that I didn't know, when I've identified that, is I zoom out on my map until you get to that. What's that layer called where it's kind of like an aerial view?
Aerial view, yeah.
Zoom out to where I get to the aerial view layer and start looking at the mountainsides or hillsides that are bordering the body of water, right? And just kind of scroll up through there and look for hollows or ravines, whatever you want to call them, where probably a little drain or a little small creek coming in. Right now, just run them, like run to the mouth. And to Mike's point, those small ones clean up quicker. They added to the problem, but they clean up quicker. So now you have the same thing that I just described out in front of the mud, behind the mud.
Exactly.
And there's some interesting things that happen here. So as that trickles in, it's the same kind of an effect. But there's two super key pieces I want to highlight here. And the one I don't really, it's something I do on the river, and I don't like to really, we're not going to talk about that one. But the other one is so as that water comes in.
Wait a second here. Wait, time out. Hold the freaking phone. We don't do that on Tackle Shop Live.
Very rarely.
We don't do that on because if you don't say it, I will.
This isn't secret.
If
secret
you don't
live.
say it, I will. So just
George,
blab
just
it.
let it out.
River fishing, man. It's it's even current, any kind of current.
Well, the current that we're talking about can be wind driven or current from a river.
A river.
And what happens is that water comes out of that new run in and it gets pinched against a bank and it flows with either the wind current or the natural current. And remember I said how they don't blend?
Right.
They don't. It's not like there's a plexiglass there.
No, that's pretty damn close.
But it is pretty damn close.
It's damn close.
So there's two things I want to say about that. One is
fish that bank.
Yeah. The other is take your if you're on a where the current's real like subtle.
Yeah.
And you're not sure what's going on, take and do like a big U-turn in your boat with your trolling motor and watch what color water comes up in the prop wash. If you're doing a big U-turn through the mud and green water's coming up through the prop wash, you're on top of the blend zone. So you can actually, that's not really the quote unquote mud line.
Yeah.
That's like
so what looks like 6 inches could be what, 2 foot wide
or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
Fishable.
You know, you'll watch your prop wash and all of a sudden your prop wash will be mud and you'll be like, oh, that's like 10 feet in from that little edge.
Yeah.
So you have a bigger zone than you think.
Yeah.
And you can run those
creeks.
Yeah.
Patterns.
Drains. Whatever you call them.
Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah. And again, 8 hours is a long time, So, at the end of the day, you can go back over top of these places because these fish are going to gravitate to it. They might not get to it right away, but they're going to gravitate to it. So you got to, you can work back through this stuff and fish it up one time and then turn around and run that whole way back down. It might be 6, 8, 10 miles of just jumping creeks for that new mud. And you can come back through it and a whole nother pot of fish are in there, a whole nother amount of fish.
Yeah. You can put together a little run.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that happens on the front side.
Exactly.
As that water's getting pushed out. And I've experienced it.
I want to turn
numerous, multiple times, and I got to tell you, I like it. I really like. I like a lot of rain.
It just turns
a lot of mud.
Makes the fish very angry.
They are pissed
off. And they eat. I mean, because all that stuff's getting washed in there, and the bait fish are trying to get out of the current. Because the current usually comes up a little bit, or they don't like that dirty water, and they like to get in those bushes, and they'll just go in those little bushes, and those bass just get late. They know what's going on, and they go over there, and now they can see what's going on. And they lay right on the edge of that mud water over top. That clean water filters back up underneath it, and they lay right in there, man. And you bring a spinner bait or a chatter bait or something through there, or crankbait.
They got to have it. Well, they're opportunistic feeders, and that's the perfect opportunity.
It's ambush points.
But it's something that you said, Mike, was interesting. A lot can happen in 8 hours.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that happen, especially in the spring, which we're in that right now.
Yeah.
And it just made me think of something. You guys have fished a lot of tournaments, and I don't know if you've both fished a lot of multi-day tournaments or whatever, but did something like this ever change your plan in a multi-day event to where you had to run that water or anything like that?
Well, I was in a big tournament one time, and George has a lot more experience with it than I do, but I was in a real big tournament one time, and it wasn't even
how big.
It was like multiple boats.
500 boats.
It was multiple
or 12.
It was multiple boats.
What position did you finish in this 12 boat tournament?
You were there. I broke your boat all up. Don't you remember?
Oh, that was a BFL.
No, it wasn't a BFL. It was called, what was it called back then?
Red Man.
Or the Red Man.
Yeah, you did break my
Tore your boat all up, and I gave it to him the morning of, and he had a pump, the water pump.
I was sinking.
It was sinking all morning because I cracked the pump on it. It was rough as hell. So it wasn't because we're going to get into this, but it was muddy water. It was a spot. It was a spot that a guy practiced. I was a rider. Okay. And this is what happens, this mental game. And this guy's like, oh man, I'm on this rattle trap bite. It's so unbelievable. And the morning of, we're talking about it, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, it's not far. It's just right out around the corner here." And I'm like, "Right out around the corner where?" And he told me where it was. I'm like, "Well, the wind's like pounding on that all night last night, and the rain and the wind and the pounding." I said, "It's going to be blowed out." I said, "So you might not want to go there first thing in the morning." And he's like, "No, no, no. I know what you're talking about." So we go around there, and he sees this, and it's red chocolate milk, 50, 60 yards, 80 yards off the bank, just red chocolate milk. And he's like, I just saw his whole day just go right into the dumpster. You know what I mean? And I had to motivate him all day long, saying, "Listen, let's just not fish here now. But it's at the end of the day, we can come back in here and it's all going to be changed. It'll start to filter out, and these fish will start getting used to it. And we can catch some fish in here." And, and the second day of the tournament, that's what happened. And we went in there, and we started catching fish in that spot in there. And it was just, the first day it was blowed out. The second day it was right. So, and then also 8 hours. I mean, how many times that happened in 8 hours where stuff would clean out and you could go back in at the end of the day?
That's a good point. And another aspect of it, Nick, you have wind current.
Yeah.
You have natural river current, but you also have tidal water. And, on tidal water, I think you get much more muddy water events because of wind. All the different levels of there's numerous feeders. It's a river, so it can rain not even where you're at 3 days before you get there. And then you're not paying attention, and it gets there when you get there.
Yeah.
But anyways, the tide cycles will move that water, because for the most part, it does not blend. It's its own little group of water. So it'll and leave that kind of mix behind. The mix is the deal. Like, if you have the freshest, reddest, gnarliest mud, fresh, new mud, bad stuff.
Yeah. And
then if you have an option for really clear water, or if you have an option for that blend, get on that blend.
Yeah.
Because those fish, to Mike's point, are very aggressive generally.
Yeah.
And to your point, Nick, I mean, multiple tournaments where that's happened to me. Very few times was it not a good thing. There was a few times when it was a really bad thing. I will say this: severe wind created mud is much, much worse than rain created mud.
Yeah, because it's mixed.
And it tears everything up.
It's mixed, and it tears.
The wave action displaces the fish. Not only do you get the mud,
you get the displacement.
You get all that. And also, depending on where you're at, I was talking to a very good friend of mine who is currently on Lake Erie. And they've had you know how this year's been with the wind.
Yeah.
They've had just hellacious wind. Matter of fact, he couldn't even go. He's rescheduled this trip like 3 times.
Yeah.
Because you could not even fish. Yeah. And now there's a lot of really dirty water that kind of lends itself to this discussion, because I call that like new mud. Because Lake Erie, as we all know, is extremely clear. So it doesn't take like red mud to cause the same chaos to the fish.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of the new mud, Mike.
Yeah. Robert Brett says Fort Lauderdale got 26-inch pluses of rain today, and they're expecting more. That's probably not the day to go fishing. And I don't think it's going to clean up for any time soon. If you got that anywhere on your body of water.
I have one question for
Robert, you don't want to go for that one.
Do you have a Sims rain suit? If you answered yes to any of these questions, hook the boat up.
Hook the boat up.
You may not be launching at the ramp.
Yeah.
You might be launching at the intersection of 4th and Main. Yeah. But as long as you got your Sims.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Let's go.
if you get 26 inches of rain overnight, they'll probably cancel the tournament. But
And you also make NBC nightly news.
yeah. All right.
Yikes. Yeah. So now you have, sustained mud, mud that's been around for a while, which is even better yet.
Oh, I love it.
Because now you have fish that have become accustomed to it. They're comfortable. It's kind of like you when you're at home and the weather's been nice and, you're just everything's going good. And then I think in the winter they called it the bomb cyclone.
Yeah.
Then the bomb cyclone comes in and just freezes your pipes and blows over your, decorations in your yard and just trashes everything. And you're just not yourself.
Yeah.
Right. But, after the aftermath of the bomb cyclone and you have 3 weeks of teen to 0 degree temps, you kind of get used to it and you adapt. That's how that mud is. You know what I'm saying? That mud is like.
That's a great,
there,
analogy, George.
It was good, wasn't it?
That's tremendous. I love the bomb cyclone analogy.
Yeah. Came to me. Really did. So what I like, Mike and I talked about a few things that we like. Okay, so we like the mud line. Right? We like the mud line. And the one thing we wanted to highlight on that, which we already talked about, is how you have clear water under that mud line for an extent of time. So kind of flop around there with your trolling motor and see where, if you got good green water coming up in your prop wash,
yeah,
that's not the mud line.
Yeah.
That's like the blend. That's where you want to be.
Yeah. And,
right?
and a lot of times this is pushed out now. It's pushed out a little bit more. It's
had a chance to blend a little better.
Instead of it being just a little 6-inch strip along the bank, it's pushed out a little bit more and you got a little bit more of a band there. And it might even get over top of that little point that you were fishing. You know what I mean, Nick? That you were catching them on. It might even get out over that a little bit. That's that blend, not the blend, but that line, that mud line can get on the perfect spot on a point and really give the fish an ambush spot on there. So it's really important to follow that little.
There's another killer scenario for that mud line.
Yeah.
And you experienced this once with a triumphant victory in a tournament.
Many, I can't remember them all.
Well, this one you're going to remember. So give yourself in your minds here, people, any Saturday or any Sunday on your favorite lake in USA, when the ski bobs and the jet wakers and the wake boats and the
ski bobs, the jet wakers.
Yeah, he's really coming up with them.
I'm telling you, man, he has got them today, man.
Yeah, them little ski bobs.
Ski bobs.
The dictionary of George.
Yeah.
Them.
We all know what you're talking about.
Ski bobs and jet wakers, and then you got them professional Olympic water skiing athletes out there, and then you got the Rodney Dangerfields cruising up and down.
Go up and go down. But
anyway, when all that hits your body of water, and it's usually about 10:30, 11 when the alcohol wears off from the night before. What do we get on all of our red clay banks and all of our dirty, muddy banks? We get beautiful mud lines that are established by excessive traumatic wakes and waves. And guess what? That is an opportunity that aggressive fish pull into. And if you have a little wind in the mix, and you can dare say get that combined with some wind, you better get your spinnerbait out and your chatterbait out and get on it.
Yeah,
that's another mud line.
Think about that.
Has nothing to do with rain.
Think about the mud line. If you were a little shad, and you were hanging out and you got all this clear water out here and they could see you like a mile away, or you can go over in here like in the like the fighter pilots used to go in the clouds, where you can go in the clouds. That's what's going on, and these fish are right on that edge. And if you get kind of lazy or something, and you weasel your way out just to kind of check and see what's going on, and you're going to get gobbled up by this aggressive fish who's just waiting for that to happen. So if you throw your spinner bait or your chatter bait or your rattle trap into that mud and you bring it out of there, that's what you're emulating, is that little bait fish coming out of that mud and checking the area out. And I'm telling you, man, they wreck it. They pull the rod out of your
It's
hand,
good stuff.
and it's just really, really something.
Question for you guys. So if you have that mud line, and I'm visualizing this right now at Raystown because that's a perfect place that this happens.
Yeah.
All of them are.
Do you guys like to, how do you boat position and where do you like to cast? Do you cast in it? Do you cast like with it?
I like an angle on it. I like to have my spinner bait, and if there's wind involved, I'm throwing a spinner bait. So as far as bait selection is concerned, first, second, and third options are spinner baits. But I like to have where I'm casting into it, but I want to be like, let's just break it down, a third, a third, a third. A third in it, a third on the edge, and a third coming out. If plus or minus, I mean, we're not dividing this up. And I'll tell you, now, if there's no wind, then a spinner bait might not be your best option, and you may actually want to go to a more neutral bait. Now, I'm going to try the moving stuff first, a crankbait, a chatterbait, what have you.
Yeah.
But you may have to go to, some other, like a jig or a swim jig or something a little more subtle.
Yeah.
But if there's a little bit of wind, man, start running those mud lines if you can get bit on them, because they are great. That's the one nice thing about all those recreational watercraft.
Yeah. Now let's kind of get back a little bit to that mud that's been there for a while. And what you want to look for, things you want to get at. So we talked about a couple of them.
Oh, I like the cleanest, dirtiest water.
Yeah. So, this is where, like, if you're fishing grass areas, Nick,
filters,
and, you got, and this happens a lot on tidal water. So the edge of your grass is where the tide is really going in and it's really going out. And then you have the grass onto the flats or whatever you want to call it. And you have that mud just going in and going out, and it gets a little bit clearer, and it goes in and it goes out and gets a little bit clearer. But over here, it's getting pulled out of there, but it's going at a much smaller rate, and it's pulling that mud out of that. The grass is pulling that mud out of there, and you start to see that the grass water is cleaner. It's actually starts to get that little fuzz hair of green hue to it. And now, I mean, you got the mud out here where the tide's like kind of going along the edge of the grass. And then you have this distinct different in color. And then that is where things can really get good for you.
Well, and it really is. And those little channels change as the tide level changes. So the grass is acting kind of like a dam, and it's allowing the water to flow freer in some areas than others.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like an area in your grass bed where, let's say you have like thicker grass here and thicker grass here and not so much here, as that tide's drawing,
yeah,
and the water level recedes on this grass and this grass, this stuff gets more powerful to hold the water back, and the water flows more freely down that aisle there. Yeah. And you get like a little micro burst of current accelerated, but because it's pulling that cleaner filtered water out, you get all that stuff happening at once.
Yeah. And like I'm not saying it's clean water. It's just
nicer.
It's a different shade of dirt that's actually a little bit cleaner, and that's where those fish will gravitate to. And it's almost like they'll pile in there. The bait fish goes in there, is in there already, and the fish just they'll pull out from all these muddy areas, and they're going to look for that clear water.
Well, and the other thing that happens with that, Mike,
these are the opportunities.
Once that opens up there, and then that tide continues down, that lane goes away, and now this one opens, and those fish just and when they're doing that, they're aggressive.
So you might have to go get in your boat, and you might have to idle some grass for a while until you find the right current pull on it and the right clarity that you're looking for, and look for that cleaner water. So you just can't pull up and go, oh, that water's cleaner, and that's where the fish are. You might have to idle a little bit and look at it and really pay attention, maybe fish this spot for a little bit and move, fish that spot for a little bit and move until you can really start to see, and then you'll start to catch fish, and then you'll know that, okay, this is where the really actual cleaner water is. Might be half a mile away.
And what's funny, Mike, is sometimes you start to see life in that area.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you start to see that life, and then you're kind of saying, now I got some flicking stuff in there. Something's flicking around in there.
Hear it.
And you're seeing some splashing and some, you all of a sudden you see something chase, and it's like, oh, this is where I'm going to concentrate here a little bit. I'm going to spend some time and try to figure out this bite. And so the grass gives you a natural filter. If in a river situation, I was fishing a river and the river was running mud for a couple of days, and the water level's kind of maintaining its level, the same thing happens in a river. It might not be grass. It might be bushes along the banks. It might be a current break. What happens to mud in a still water as opposed to mixing water is that when it's in a still pocket or against the bank where the bushes are creating a lot of eddy pockets, or the trees are backing up the water, or whatever is creating those eddy pockets, is that those sediment particles drop out of the water. That's not moving quicker than if it's getting tossed around as it's moving down through the current. And that gives you an opportunity to look for cleaner water against the banks. And again, George and I have adapted our fishing techniques to be able to fish this type of stuff with baits and get into this areas and catch these fish that, I don't know why. There is, I know why. There's a lot of people don't go there and touch it because it's bushes, it's all the sticks and stuff that are in there that equate to getting snagged.
Yeah.
And and people don't want to throw a tube in there, or they don't want to throw a certain bait in there to catch these fish.
Me neither.
Huh?
Me neither. I
Why
want
not?
to power fish first.
Yeah, I know, but there's a lot of times where you can't power
Right,
fish,
right. There are days.
A lot of times where we'll power fish and we'll go back through with a tube, and then we'll just not knock them out. So, but that's the kind of thing you can look for. Yeah, the main river is running at a certain color, but just against the bank, just moving into the bank, you start to see this filtration happening in the bushes and the trees and the eddy pockets. This filtration starts to happen. So even you river guys, that's what you kind of want to look for, is that type of a scenario, along with what we talked about first, the tributaries, pumping in some clean water, knowing your body of water.
That's number one on the depth chart.
Knowing, but here's the thing. That's kind of it is, but as you well know, there's people figuring this stuff out, and there might be people on those lines, and there's fish that won't travel a mile to get to that. So those fish are now untouched for a while. You know what I mean? And then now that bank that has that little bit cleaner water hasn't been fished. Everybody's trying to, fish in the creek mouse, and they're fishing that little strip down through there. And then now those fish, you can go down there and catch those fish, and they're untouched.
Well, the other factor there is after a few days,
yeah,
it doesn't matter, because these fish are used to it. And once they're used to it, it's game on.
Yeah, but you're still looking for clean water.
There are techniques where you can find the cleaner water, which we've covered real well. But if that doesn't exist, it doesn't matter. They are now accustomed to it. They will now live and thrive in that dirtier water environment. I fished some really dirty water and caught fish. I'm talking about water that looked thick, but it was dirty for so long because of flooding that these fish just adapted to it, and I caught fish in it. So that opened my eyes up to,
they have to eat, right, George?
Yeah,
they got to eat.
What I call what did I put down here? Like the being conditioned to the mud. So
Yeah, for
once
sure.
once that occurs, look for your cleanest, dirtiest water.
Yep.
We highlighted a couple techniques for that. But if that's not available, fish the mud.
Fish your spots.
They're dialed
your
in.
areas.
Fish the mud,
Fish what you would fish.
Fish the conditions, fish the wind.
Yeah.
Fish the seasonal patterns,
Yeah.
and fish the mud. Bait wise, we should talk about that a little bit.
I think we definitely should talk about baits.
There's a lot of mud water to me is power fishing. But a lot of what I do is it's probably pretty simple. We talked about spinner baits.
Yep.
Spinner baits and more spinner baits.
Chatterbaits, chatterwagons.
Colorado combinations, Colorado, Indiana combinations, straight Colorado single blades,
chartreuse skirts, chartreuse and white skirts, gold blades,
black skirts, red kicker Colorados is a big deal in muddy water. Make sure you're fishing a trailer, like a swim bait with a boot foot. You want bulk. You want to try to create as much solidness and silhouette as possible. Perhaps a black spinner bait with a bright chartreuse trailer, or a bright blue flipping blue trailer. Sapphire blue trailer. Chartreuse, heavy chartreuse skirts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What I like to call shock colors.
Yeah, chartreuse and white with a chartreuse trailer.
And white plays in dirty water. The color coleslaw is a bad boy.
Yep. Painted blades,
white, orange, chartreuse painted blades, white painted blades. Those are all really good dirty water baits. Do not hesitate to rotate through them. The spinner bait is a major player. It produces big fish in dirty water.
Do you have a favorite blade size for that?
My favorite combination go-to is a 3/4 ounce Colorado, Indiana, number 3 Colorado, number 7 Indiana. That's my kind of go-to chartreuse and white, old school hog collar. That's kind of my go-to.
Start out.
That's where I start the hunt.
Yeah. You might end up with a double white bladed, white skirt, white trailer, but that's what he's going to start with. And he's going to work through his progression.
I like that.
As he goes through.
I like the red kicker.
Mix that in there on one,
I like the black skirt. All Colorado. I'm a Colorado, Indiana guy. I'm either fishing 3/8 and half with a 2/6 combination, or 3/4 with a 3/7 combination. I'll change skirt colors. What I carry in my boat, I should say what Mike and I carry in our boats, is a decent amount of spinner baits, but not like crazy combinations. But skirts,
blades.
Those combinations, those 3/6 Indianas, 3/7 Indianas, red kicker, those combinations are there. Now they may run a green pumpkin skirt, they may run a chartreuse and white skirt, they may run a black skirt. That remains to be seen. And then as that water kind of gets that I'm getting better look, I know Mike does too, double chartreuse willows on a big spinner bait.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think the point is the spinner bait.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not the only bait. It's a great bait to throw into dirty water.
It's way up there.
It's, the chatter bait is a really good one.
Awesome choice.
It's a noise maker. It sticks out well. Those fish are aggressive. But then when they're not aggressive, there's other things to do when they're not aggressive, and flipping a jig. I know George loves to flip a black and blue jig. When that water's dirty for any kind of period of time, he throws a black and blue jig.
I like a big jig.
Black and blue jig with a black. Well, it depends on what you're fishing for. You're not going to throw out for smallies.
No, but in the spring, in dirty water, a mop jig. Key to that is a full-size trailer that you nose hook for a bigger profile. Springtime, freaking killer. This is a killer when the water's not muddy.
Yeah.
This is an extra special killer when the water is muddy.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that whole Buckeye lures, mop jig. You got the rattle,
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah. So you got that. You got, your jigs.
Another thing I really like, Mike, and especially grass,
Mhm.
is a big square bill.
Yeah, I'm not a square bill guy in the grass.
Yeah. Oh, I netted about a 25-pound bag for you one time with a big giant square bill in the grass.
I know, but
in muddy water.
I don't think it was muddy water.
It was real muddy. We couldn't even see the grass. We needed to use 2D sonar to even see it. Big square bills in grass. I did all the network that day too. I didn't catch any of those big fish.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that day.
On the flats.
I whoop your ass so many times, like trying to put it together.
And it was actually a BDS-3 Lucky Craft.
Oh yeah, right.
Right. In about 6 foot of water on muddy water on grass.
Yeah.
And it was a just under 25
blackback chartreuse.
Just under 25-pound 5-fish limit.
Blackback chartreuse.
And cranking grass in dirty water ever since then has been a major gig for me. It's been big time on the Potomac for me, but I like to go a little bigger. Square bill, contact, rip, cranking wood, cranking rock, oversized.
Yeah.
Go up one size. Go to a 2.5, go to a 2.0. Very big player. Reds and chartreuse blackbacks. Reds and chartreuse blackbacks.
Red is a definite player in dirty water.
So I had that on the notes here. That's a big deal.
You want me to tell you what my big deal is?
Yeah.
Can I finish what I was saying?
Sure.
So the thing also is, like, when you're fishing that dirty water, and you have to slow down, like the jig, like George said, and if you say you wanted to throw a plastics, a really good dirty water color, believe it or not, is a green pumpkin, and then dip the tail in chartreuse to give you that contrast. That's a really excellent dirty water flipping bait, and I like a bulky bait, like a brush hog for your largemouth. When I'm fishing the river for smallmouth, I like a green pumpkin, purple flake tube with dip to the tail and chartreuse. Now, I'm not going to dip the whole entire tail in chartreuse, but this is where that spike it carried around in your boat for a couple of weeks, or for a whole year. This is where you're going to be busting it out a lot, and you're going to be dipping a lot, and you're going to be flipping that in that dirty water, whether it's for largemouth with a heavy brush hog, or with a tube for your smallmouth and dipping the tail in that chartreuse. Unbelievable difference. Even days where you think a black and red flake bait would be the main thing, I gotta throw something black. Which black is a really good color for dirty water. Don't get me wrong, but this is just a little more subtle, a little bit more natural to me. I think that the green in the grass is just a little bit more natural, and then that chartreuse tail just fluttering down through that grass and just putting out that little bit of flash. Man, that's a really good bait for stained water. Now, I'm not going to use it for super muddy water, but if I find that clear, a little bit clear stuff, man, you better believe it. I'm flipping that thing in there with some chartreuse spike it.
And what's so important, Mike, is that spike it. I mean, you got to carry that stuff because that's the perfect time to do.
You got to have it with you.
Yep.
And what's spike it also? It's a scent. And dirty water. If anytime you're going to use a scent, if anytime you're going to use rattles, the addition of rattles. You know, this is some stuff to go along with your tackle. This is when you're going to add your rattles to your baits. This is when you're going to add the spike it to the tails. And this is where you're going to really load on the scent. You know, anything to help you get that fish to kind of zone in on that bait a little bit better. Or when he grabs it, he might grab it and miss it a little bit. That scent and that, you know, that triggering device, he takes another shot at it. You know, he won't just swipe at it once. He'll take another shot at it and get a little bit better bite on it, and you can hook that fish a little better. So that's a couple of things there where you definitely want to have with you, because you know we power fish a lot in the dirty water and we try to cover a lot of water. But if you work through all that stuff and you've done well, then you might want to work back through it with some of the slower baits, the flipping, the jigs, the you know the man black and blue jig with the blue trailer. I mean, that freaking thing has caught so many fish over the years. It's unbelievable in that dirty water. Yeah, sapphire blue trailer in that dirty water. It's just freaky good, man. Green pumpkin baby brush hog with the tails dip, heavy chartreuse. You know, the double dip in the chartreuse. Going in there once, going in there again. Going in there once is getting you one level, and you go in there again. Who was talking about that the other day? We had on the show, Epic Eric.
Epic Eric.
He talked about the double dip.
And when he was here at the shop, he loaded up.
Yes, he did. He bought how many jars of that stuff?
I mean, he was double dipping different kinds.
Oh, yeah. He was like the double dip. This is when you do the double dip in that dirty water. Absolutely. So it's like the flash and all George is talking about. You know, you're doing that flash and all, the orange blade, the red color crankbaits, the chartreuse crankbaits, the spinner baits with that. Maybe you get into the chartreuse blades and the chartreuse skirt. It's all stuff you need to be throwing in this dirty water. Again, you got to have the confidence. You have to have that confidence. You can't be that negative Nancy at the boat ramp. And we've all fished with them. And I hope you guys aren't going to be that person anymore. You're not going to be that person that shows up at the boat ramp and just, you know, and we're not done talking about this. We got more to talk about. But again, just I'm kind of iterating it. Don't be that negative Nancy that puts you into a bad frame of mind, that you make bad decisions in dirty water, because there's opportunities available. We gave you a bunch of them so far.
Half the field is like that.
I'm telling you, it's negative Nancy's, man. You just got to look for the opportunities. The opportunities are there. In this time of year, the fish have to eat. In the summer, they have to eat. They can't go without eating. They will eat. They are going to move somewhere and they're going to eat. They're going to find the bait fish. And the bait fish can't stay in the heavy currents when it's rained, and they don't like to stay in that stuff. They're going to go into the grass. They're going to go into the banks where the bushes are, and they're going to get in those places for number one, cover, and number two, to get out of the current. They have to eat plankton. They have to eat too, right, George?
They do.
They do. So the plankton's in there. Everything's getting pushed in there. It's a whole ecosystem.
It's kind of amazing to me, you know, in the worst case mud scenarios, once you get 3 days in, everybody's used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, the plants aren't digging it because they're not getting their sunlight.
No.
The plankton's not digging it too much because they're not getting their sunlight, but everybody's adapted to it by then. And a lot, I mean, like I was going to ask you guys, like, what's some of the weirdest off the wall crazy stuff that you personally experienced in muddy water? Now it could be something that you figured out. It could be something that you learned that was just like totally against everything you ever knew up to that point. Well, how about you, cameraman?
All right. So it was pretty cool, but I couldn't believe how tight the wood some of these fish would get when they had that muddy water. I mean, you literally, if you didn't cast like you wanted to get stuck, you weren't getting bit. I mean,
you mean like the old man down in Santee Cooper told me and Mike?
No, I don't know about that one.
You didn't hear what he said?
No.
He said, boys, I want you to put that lizard between the bark and the tree.
That's what I'm talking
That's
about.
what he was talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it because I was throwing a spinner bait, the tandem blades with the red on the back, the last blade, and I wasn't getting bit. I'm telling you, I had to take that trailer hook off and just throw it on the wood. And I'm like, oh shit, I can recycle all that water. And I went back through there and caught fish.
What a great point too. When you need to get into hand-to-hand
Combat.
with wood objects, remove the trailer hook. I know Kevin Van Dam's probably watching right now and he just spit his popcorn all over the couch. But I'm telling you, I cannot dissect when you got to get in there. I can't do it. I'm snagged all the time.
Yeah.
And another thing and again, somebody's going to probably crucify me for this, but a lot of times in that dirtier water, just that aggressive nature of those fish, they're eating that spinnerbait. They are eating that spinnerbait, right?
Oh yeah.
What else you got, Nick? You got any other crazy past experiences that taught you something about fishing mud?
Not like you guys do. I didn't fish as much mud as you guys did.
I have a great story.
You got to get dirty, Nick.
This goes back to some of my earlier days of bass fishing when I figured out about how shallow bass go in muddy water, especially when it's flooded and and it's prolonged. How shallow these fish will actually go. We were fishing a lake. George was with me. This was back when the slider fishing was like, we would fish with 6 and 8 pound tests with slider heads and
They called him Mike Brewer.
Yeah. We'd fish the Charlie Brewer slider heads and we would put like ringworms on them. And that was like the best bass bait. And we would crush them. Well, anyway, we go to this lake and it's extremely dirty. And it's never dirty. The lake is always clean, and it rained so much that year. It was like the third year we were in business, and it was horrible business, and it was just devastating to us, So we went fishing to kind of cheer ourselves up. Like in the middle of the week, we would leave somebody back at the shop, and the other 2 guys would go fishing. And the next day, somebody would stay back at the shop, and the other 2 guys would go fishing. But when we, because we were forced to fish that dirty water. We were fishing we tried to fish the old bank, like out from where the water flooded. We were trying to fish the old bank, and we rounded this corner, and we were going down through there, and something splashed way up in the trees, and I said, "Oh man, did you see that?" George was like, "It's probably just a carp," because it was 6-8 inches of water.
Yeah, their back should have been out of the water.
It should have been out of the water, right? So I just flick a worm, slider head back up in there, and I hit just where this big splash was, toink, and I set the hook, and I catch to this day, not my personal best, but one of my biggest smallmouth that I've ever caught in my life. It held the record for a very, very, very long time, and that fish was in 6 to 8 inches of water, and that's no lie, and I think right after I landed my fish and we were freaking out because we landed it and George and I were just freaking out. Back then you didn't have cell phone cameras and stuff. And we were freaking out. And I think he picked up and threw back in there again and boom, he catches something. And then from there on out, we started fishing back in the 6 to 8 inches of water, starting our cast way back in there. It was amazing to me how shallow fish will go in a prolonged dirty water situation.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, I have 2 of them, and they both involve, and they're just short little points that I learned. And they both involved like mud that appeared overnight from drastic rain, and it was tournament day. It's like the whole system was trashed. So you can go wherever you want, and I was on my way to go explore some back run-ins, some of the little creeks running in.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the James River. I was on James River. We launched out of Osborne. I'm heading south, and I'm just going to just fish everything that comes in. sooner or later I'm going to catch 5 fish. And running down through there, and the tide was perfect for these wing walls that we were catching our fish on. And it was like, hey, we had a really good pattern on these wing walls on a spinnerbait. Like right now, this is what we would be doing. And this mud is everywhere, and this mud just showed up. I don't know. Let's try it. So we pulled up there, and we missed a couple fish. Had trailer hooks on too. And the water was extremely dirty. Chartreuse double Colorado spinnerbait. And I don't know what made me do it. I wanted bulk. But I reached down into my box. I got out another skirt, and I put a second skirt on the spinnerbait. So now I had 120 strands of chartreuse. I'm talking like the mop jig of spinnerbaits.
Megatruce. That was the megatruce.
The mop jig of spinnerbaits. And you know what? Started catching fish. So that was something that was pretty cool. Another time was on the Nanticoke River, and the same thing happened. And the Nanticoke River tends to be a little dingy. A lot of it's tannic water, but this was, bad storms.
Mud.
And this was one of the most epic tidal water days of my life, in the worst mud, fresh, terrible conditions ever. And I think what we're pointing out here is the confidence to the mud, dealing with the new mud. So I went to a creek mouth, and I pulled up on this uber shallow wood. Like, I'm talking no water. And I was flipping they wouldn't eat anything moving. I was flipping a zipper worm. But it was one that Don Iovino was making. He copied the zipper worm.
Yeah.
Black with a chartreuse tail. And I was getting a lot of misses. So I took my chartreuse tail and I dipped it in chartreuse garlic spike it, and it turned into a brilliant chartreuse tail and went on to have one of the most epic numbers days.
Double dipping, baby.
I mean, we crushed fish. So super shallow, super bright.
Yep.
Double spinnerbait skirt on when you're forced to fish it. But I think what all three of us are saying is, I know what Nick was saying. His fish were aggressive. They were super tight, right on the cover. Mike's fish were aggressive. They were super shallow. My fish were aggressive. They were the wing wall fish were not super shallow, but they were in the heavier current.
Well, the bait had to the change in the bait had to play.
They were in that heavier current, changing the bait. But those Nanticoke River fish, I mean, they literally were breathing air. They were on dry ground. I mean, it was awesome. So those are a few, and I wanted to do that little round the horn thing there. I thought that was pretty cool.
If I had to give one more tip, and it's not about what lure to use, but that new dirty water this time of year, be careful navigating with your boat, because it brings all kinds of trees, all that good stuff coming out.
The longer you have low drought water or just low water between rainstorms, right, the worse the flow is going to get. And in the flow, I mean the trees,
all that stuff falls on the banks.
Well, not only that,
forever.
But guys are dumping stuff on the people living along the banks. They're dumping it in there. The trees are falling over, new tree falling over stuff.
Limbs falling off trees and wind.
All this stuff, firewood that gets rolled into the water.
And then all of a sudden you get a big old flusher.
And it's really bad. So if you have a big storm and then the next week you have another big one, you don't get as bad. But
that's a great point, Nick. And you know what?
Yeah.
A lot of these boats today run at crazy high speeds. And I mean, Mike and I have been in tournaments where we saw multiple outboard motors snapped off the back of boats, 250s from hitting stuff. Slow it down, sniff the roses, drink the coffee, get there and fish and get back. Yeah. Because that's a great point, Nick. The fresh trash is coming in. By trash, we mean
trees,
wood.
Yep. Now listen, we all went fishing and practiced in a tournament, or just went fishing on a Monday and went back on a Tuesday, or went fishing on a Friday or Saturday and went back on the next day, and found the water we were fishing that was blowed out for a big storm, blowed out by a big wind blow and stirred everything all up. And we got in a situation where we got negative on it. What we just tried to show you guys is a positive way, and I'm just reiterating this again, a positive way to look at this water and say there is somewhere in this, somewhere where I'm fishing or in this area that I'm fishing, that these fish are going to feed and they're going to be stacked up. Dirty high water is a great opportunity time to look for those pods of fish and have memorable days, because if you listen to our stories, they're memorable days. They're days that we remember. It was a great experience. It was unbelievable. They were stacked up in the creek mouth. They were stacked up on this bank, and the mud had them pushed in shallow, and it was all this stuff. So now you guys know, get out there, fish the mud properly, use it as an opportunity and not as a negative, and you will have some great success. Mix in the baits that we discussed, do some double dipping, to change your skirts up a little bit, throw the gold blades, listen to what we had to say and go out there and apply it, because guess what? If you fish a lot, you're going to fish dirty, muddy water, period. Got anything else, George?
I do.
Yeah.
The Bass Open today on Toledo Bend.
Oh.
And we're not going to talk anything pattern related till next week, but check this out. 17 bags over 20 pounds.
Jeez,
Day one. 225 boats.
Golly.
Then it just goes and does the traditional, like, 19, 19, 19, 18, 18, 18, 17, 17, 17, the whole ways down to like the 11s.
Wow.
The top co-angler that I saw weigh in, now they only have 3 fish limits, was 19 pounds.
Holy crap. And 3 fish?
That's all they have.
Holy 19 pounds.
3 fish. No, and he's in good company. He's in good company. He's in good company. Okay.
Oh, there's more people?
So he's in good company.
Yeah.
Now check this out. Ben Milliken.
Yeah.
He's fishing the opens with the goal to make the Elite Series.
Yeah.
29 pounds, 8 ounces.
Golly, bomb, almost a dirty 30. That's real close to the dirty 30.
Second place, 27.14.
Wow.
Third place, 26. 17 bags over 20. 2 big fish tied. Either 2 or 3 times. I think
10 pounders?
I think there was 3 matching big fish.
Gosh almighty.
9.8.
9.8. God.
So, I mean,
Toledo Bend?
Toledo Bend.
What is going on with Toledo Bend?
Toledo Bend's one of the most famous lakes in the history of bass fishing. And check this out.
Yeah.
It's primarily post spawn. And they're catching them from 8 inches to 30 feet.
Wow.
So if you got anything tomorrow and you want to jump on the Bassmaster to check Bass Track and some of the pictures, it's pretty cool. But anyways, I just had that.
Do they have cameras in the boats at all?
No.
Day 3, right?
Tomorrow's day 2.
No, but day 3 they'll have cameras in those boats.
Day 3, yeah.
Okay, live streaming on Saturday. Right on. All right. Where are you going?
Well, I forgot my notes. If I don't write it down.
Okay.
I got to get my notes open here. Next week.
Yeah.
Where are we at here? Next week. Swim jigs are springtime killers.
That sounds juicy.
Heck yeah.
I love swim jigs. Okay, guys, we're going to cut this off here. Hour and 53 minutes. I don't want to keep you away from what you got to do tonight. Some people are going to bed. Some people are going to eat dinner. But we really appreciate you stopping by, and I love all the comments. Don't worry if I didn't read them off. Don't worry, we reading them. We're reading them, Jordan and I, and really thanks for all the tips, and I hope everybody that's watching is able to read the tips on there, and see what some of the guys are saying. Really cool to have all you guys on board. It was a great topic. It was a great show. And don't forget, number 9, George Miller. George Miller, we'll be calling you. George Miller, if you're in here, you won the trip with Nick, and this is the second round. Trip with Nick and the victory rod. And we're going to be calling you. And you're going to go fishing with Nick. Maybe I'll tag along. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Until next time, we'll see you at the next Tackle Shop Live.
A sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down, knowing how you blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover. I woke up all soaked in sweat, weird chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde hair and your beautiful smile. Your sense of humor makes it all worthwhile. Don't make me wait, it's not a funny game. You know just what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me